It's really a pleasure to welcome Gal Hochberg, who is CEO of Clear BlockChain Technologies. Thank you, Gal.
All right, hello everyone, thank you. I'm Gal Hochberg, I'm co-founder at Clear. And we are going to talk about blockchain, but first I want to say something wider. I want to talk about a missing link in the digital transformation process of our businesses. So, quick review, I'm sure everybody in this room knows about digital transformation, but it's happened in media, in hospitality, in retail, in entertainment. There's new companies and old companies turning into full digital experiences in the way they work with customers and the way they work internally. And it's in a good time too, because customers are looking for this, right? They want stuff now, they want it fast, they want it better and more higher quality than it was before. And this is true both for things that are already solved, like transportation that's happening, but also things that are going to happen in the future, such as self-driving cars, remote presence, and AI. Now, this big shift that's actually only happened in the last 10, 20 years is putting a lot of pressure on providers to change the way that they work, right? So you have to be digital, you have to be fast, you have to work with partners in a better way, because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. And basically, we're at an inflection point, right? So both for our personally in our lives, and if you think about the last 15 years, the amount of changes we've each experienced in the way we interact with the world due to the digital transformation, and also for our businesses in the way that they provide services to their customers, how they work with partners, and how they deliver. And you can either get this and make this happen, or like Tal said, have a startup mentality, or you can be left behind. So let's talk about how that happens. So there's a lot of technologies that come into making this work, and this is an analysis that was done by the World Economic Forum on digital transformation of different technologies that people are using to do digital transformation. So you see here things, old things like mainframes, but also new things like IoT, big data, Web 2.0, and that's getting more and more traction now. But there is a missing link. There is something people are not thinking about so much when they think about digital transformation. So let's look at this example. In many of businesses today, when you provide a service to a customer, when you're trying to do something for a consumer, you don't do it alone. You have to work with other companies to manufacture things, to transport things, to provide communication, to sell for you, like influencers. So you're actually part of this big, wide supply chain that works together to provide the end service. And this is, I think, especially interesting in situations like Uber and Airbnb and those, and Amazon here as well, of course, where they're 100% dependent on their partners to actually provide the service, right? They're just coordinating a lot of different parties to make this happen. So let's, for this example, take a look. We have two companies on the left and on the right. Let's say the left one is selling to a consumer and the right one is a manufacturer. And they've each invested a lot of time and effort in making their business digital and the best that it can, be it by doing analytics and big data and AI internally to optimize their processes, or using things like mobile to reach out to consumers, IoT to collect data from the real world, using advertising to find the right users. So they've each done this independently, and now they have to work together to make something work. And the way that they can work together pretty much is they can do APIs, right? They can try to connect their systems to each other, and that's it. And the missing thing here, the thing that we all know, we all feel every day, as business people, it's a lot of our work, is that there's another interaction that happens on that human layer, right? That interaction of closing the deal, the interaction of writing the contract, the interaction of sharing sensitive information, and sometimes a lot of sensitive information to make this relationship work, right? To figure out how much we have to pay, to figure out what we're ordering, to make this actual relationship work, and transferring funds. And interestingly enough, in the vast majority of cases, those top four things happen entirely or manually. They're just people, and they might send emails, right? We're past the physical paper sometimes, but not in all industries. But you get the PDFs, and you have to read them, and somebody has to compare them to the contracts and the Excels, and what did we send, and was this the right price? And there's this whole song and dance. The other person's always on vacation. There's a whole song and dance to make this stuff work. And the reason we do it manually is because we need trust. Right? Computers, machines, it's hard to trust them. When they make mistakes, there's not much accountability to it. But when you work with another person, they have accountability. You know who they are. If they do something wrong, there's ways to sue them. Right? There's a legal system that protects you. And because all our tools around trust, reputation, accountability, enforcement, are human tools based on people doing things, all our interactions that require trust have to stay in this human realm. And this has worked pretty well in the last, since the beginning of history, but now we're in a different time. So something that's very interesting is that if you look at global enterprise commerce, it's something that's growing larger and larger. Based on an analysis of Juniper Research and McKinsey, there's $150 trillion in B2B cross-border payments. This is just business to business, just cross-border. It doesn't include all the internal company trade, which in large companies is also huge. So these are really, really big numbers, and it's just growing more and more and more. And the reason is that as the world comes online, as companies develop, they provide more and more services to the global economy. And this does have an overhead. So on the left there's $140 billion just in fees for payments for cross-border. This isn't about the human work, the manual labor. This is just fees to move money around. So we're talking about really, really big numbers. Just for context, U.S. healthcare is a few trillions, right? So this is a very, very large amount of money that has to move around. It's part of the supply chain. So this is not going to work because what we get is manual economies. You have to work with more peers, you have to work with more companies, and you have to have people everywhere doing this. You have to, for every new relationship, you have to have somebody to manage that and make that work in the back office. I read a nice tweet the other day that says, a life skill for the 21st century, knowing how to choose a vendor, right? Because if you choose a bad one, you have a big problem. So how can we solve this? If we were able to somehow move a lot of that work from that human level down to a machine level, so sort of build an API for trust, then we would be able to automate a lot of those things, right? If what we would like to do, the best experience would be you find someone, you talk to them, you can automatically on your phone figure out the reputation of their company, and then close the deal, and then it's done. No more send it to the people who have to sign it for 5 weeks and it doesn't get approved, and then we don't know the bank accounts, and you have to, none of that, right? You're just supposed to be able to close the deal like you order an Uber. So to do that, we're going to have to build methods for trust on that lower level. So machine-readable, unforceable ways to do reputation, to do attribution, to do enforcement when machines are interacting with each other. And to do that, we're going to need some sort of shared trust layer, right? Because who's going to own that? Who's going to be able to enforce that sort of interaction? So that's what we're doing. We're taking the process you see on the left, which is a generic process that many companies experience, and we're focused on wholesale trade. So this is more about trading, where you have legal and management and sales and account all working together in this very complicated process to make stuff happen, close the deal, move the money, and move it into a shared source of truth between multiple companies where the deal can take place instantly and automatically. Now there is the word, I didn't say blockchain until now, so there is the word blockchain down at the bottom, and I want to say why that's an important piece of this vision. So people have talked about this for a long time, and it's been really hard to do. And the reason is, if you go to somebody who does trading and tell them, I'm going to run a cloud service, give me all your vendor list, all your contracts, every single piece of money that you pay someone, they're going to say, hell no. I'm not going to give some central party all my information. You're going to screw me. It's going to leak. I can't do that for privacy reasons. And when you have an ecosystem, people want to keep their information to themselves. That's their trade secret, right? Who you're buying from, what the price is something you're not going to share with other people, what your inventory is. And so you're stuck in the situation of either not having enforcement because it's just Wild West and everybody does whatever they want to do, or you have to give up control to a central party. And we've seen the problems of that in privacy recently, a lot with social networks. What we can do with blockchain as a technical tool, right, is build a network that can enforce that you have to, that when you do something on it, you can't take it back. That if you have a contract, you have to do it as you said, without creating a central party. So you'd be able to share your information with the technology that we built and with blockchain technology only with your peers, and know that if they break their commitments, you'd be able to enforce it using this blockchain that's not beholden to any specific party. So you don't get locked in, you don't get, nobody controls the ecosystem, and you get all the good things of enforcement. So for people from the finance world, it's like a decentralized clearinghouse in that sense. So our vision. We want to build what we call trade grids, which are these networks where businesses can on-demand close deals, share information just with who they need to share information, and have the assurance that the contracts are going to be executed according to the actual information. And we've been working on this for a while. It's a pretty big vision. So we've decided to start with a specific industry. And we've done work with telecommunications. And in the last year and a half, what we've done is go to telco companies. And they have a lot of international trade because telcos have to do international trade because we all want to make phone calls and surf the internet around the world. And help them transform their international calling, their roaming, their data contracts with each other to digital blockchain enforceable contracts. And we've done this with some British companies like BT and Vodafone, but also with European companies, Asian companies, and US companies. And what we're seeing now, it's a long process, right? What we're seeing now is that they use it, it works for them, it saves them in their back office, and they're starting to roll it out. And actually, this came out, I think, 2 days ago. There's a group of 15 telco companies who announced they're launching a blockchain network where we're one of the providers to do this on a global scale around the world. I want to add one more thing. It's not just about data. So the other thing that we're doing is working on payment. A lot of the challenges that were discussed are not just about sharing data and contracts, but actually moving the money. A unique challenge of global payment is that payment is optimized for local payment. It's easier to pay to somebody in the same country as you than somebody far away. And so we're also working with financial institutions to build, if you guys have heard of Libra, so build, and we've been working on this before, but an enterprise sort of version of that, where you could put money in and trade with your global partners. Thank you.
Gal, thank you very much indeed. I've got to say I'm very pleased I don't work in the back office of a company doing accounting and things, because you're probably going to put me out of a job quicker than anyone else. But that was really very insightful indeed. Thank you.